Okay. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Saturday morning live chat here. It's September 3rd, I believe, and we got some good stuff to talk about today. First thing, so I'm going to start answering some of the questions until you guys show up. And I just want to remind everyone that I started the Garden Like a Viking Instagram account. So go ahead and follow or subscribe or whatever you do to Instagram. I'm still new to Instagram, so go ahead and follow the Garden Like a Viking Instagram because that is where I will be. I'm coming up with things to do like every day, little tips or just garden updates, just trying to figure out what is Instagram really about. So do that. And then also, if you guys need to get a hold of me for a personal thing, okay, this is not a question, but for a personal thing like a business opportunity or some kind of a consultation, if you need that, I at the moment I can still do Zoom meetings and stuff. So if we need to do that, you can reach me at gardenlikeaviking@gmail.com. But for questions, anything question related about what about my garden and stuff like that, put it in the comments section of the video so that other people can benefit from our conversation, okay? Let me see, I already got a question. What do you do for fire ants? Fire ants I've never had a problem with. I've never had an experience with, so I don't know for sure. There are a number of methods, but, well, I know one method, but it's a little bit brutal. So I'm just not really gonna talk about it right now. It's like it's kind of like the slug method was, where it's a little bit medieval as far as its effects, but maybe I will put one out in the future. It involves, well, some ingredients. But anyways, Hoosier Proud. Sprouting True Leaf Protein Mix. Didn't do well. Followed directions. I'm never successful in sprouting. What? Not successful in sprouting? Well, guess what, my friend, my Hoosier friend? That is about to change. Because this winter, all winter long, we're going to be doing microgreens, sprouting, mushrooms, all that stuff. And you're going to learn how to do it in virtually fail-safe techniques, because I'm going to show you exactly how I do it and how I've had success doing it for a long time. So do not fear. The days of failure are behind you. And Born by a Queen, I still like that name. I tried JADAM plus weed fertilizer, organic pesticide, all in one barrel, and it works great. I'm going to continue. This is all-in-one solution for me, working great for me. Thanks, Nate. You are very welcome, and I am glad. So, organic pesticide, what do you mean? What have you used? So, the JADAM and the weed fertilizer and the organic pesticide, what do you mean by that? I'm curious as to which one you have put in the barrel. Mega Crystal Water, hi, greetings from the Irish Republic. Is that what Ireland is? It's a republic? Ginger, lemon, cloves, and honey. Very, very good for the throat, so I can just talk for an hour straight because that's not something I'm accustomed to doing. The people that know me in my regular real life or in my in-person life, I mostly just listen, actually. But so it's been a real skill to try and just have a flow of consciousness, just streaming outwards. It's been something I've had to practice. Bryce Wolf, good morning, sir. Happy Saturday. And Garth, hello, Garth. Greetings from Northern Ontario. Do you guys have frost yet there? Man, we're not too far off. We're about a month. It's supposed to be. Oh yeah, it's supposed to be a republic. Okay. John Jude says, today my friend going to drop me some fish to make your fertilizer as best as I can copy. You can copy it exactly, actually. I'm sure you can. What's most important with the fish fertilizer, guys, is the leaf mold. So watch the video I just put out about the leaf mold and go hunting for it. And to answer your question, yes, coniferous leaf mold works just the same. I learned these techniques living in the redwoods. And so they're ancient forests. So it doesn't matter if that's what's in your area. If you have birch forest in your area, if you have conifer forest, whatever is in your area is what's going to work. Okay, don't be concerned about it acidifying the soil and all of that. It doesn't really work like that. It definitely doesn't work like that in terms of culturing the microorganisms. Using pine needles is not going to acidify anything. Don't worry. So yes, you can use the conifer leaf mold and you will have success. So make sure that you watch that. Also, the fresher the better for that fish fertilizer. If you can go fishing, come straight home, put the fish in the barrel with the leaf mold and the water and just let it start fermenting in the sun. You can use it after about, you can begin using it after about 3 weeks if it's in a nice warm environment. And then 2 months down the road, it's even better. And then 6 months and next year, it's really good. It's totally broken down like you've seen in my video. Okay. Can I add, Kaolin says, can I add tomatoes in JLF for my tomatoes? What's the ratio like? Absolutely, you can add tomatoes for your tomatoes. In fact, that's one of the things that I make a separate bucket for. I have a bucket of, just a 5-gallon bucket of tomatoes. And that's what I add the mix to. Any of the suckers that I prune off of the tomato plants, I put them in the bucket. Any of the tomatoes, I put them in the bucket because tomatoes decompose very fast and they smell very foul indeed. So be prepared for that. But yes, tomatoes, it works really good. Dietrich, hello, my friend. Afternoon, Nate. Our soil contains a lot of clay in our garden. Is there anything you can recommend to till into it to make it better soil for our plants? Well, that is organic matter. You want to get the organic matter into it. Do not add, a lot of people want to try to add sand, and that is not, it's not going to work like that. So don't think that you're going to till in sand and that's going to have a benefit, because that is actually how you make an indigenous form of concrete, is clay and sand. So that's going to be the opposite of what you want as far as effect. So the best way to do it is to pile up the leaf mold, and I'll show you guys techniques this winter. Pile up the leaves, okay, as many deciduous leaves and grasses as you can, and let it begin to decompose. You can till that in real nice and good, yes, the one initial till, but then you don't need to till after that, because once that breaks, so you'll till that in and let that decompose, and then put the leaves or the grass or the hay or straw on top, and we do heavy mulching, and that is going to be everything that is needed. You don't want to continually till. You know, a one-time initial till is good, but then after that, it's just heavy mulching and cover crops. That is the way to do it. It really is to have the cover crops have their roots do the tilling for you. So in your area, Kentucky, I would say you would want to do crimson clover mixed with some winter wheat or winter rye. Both of those will be really good, vigorous root systems, and you will till up the land with the organic matter in it about now or in the next 3 weeks, and then you will plant the crimson clover and winter wheat cover crop, and it will sprout, and the roots will be feeding the soil all winter long. And then it'll grow real fast first thing in the springtime, and then that is when you can either terminate it, or if you have to, the first time you can till it under. So, but I'll be making videos about all that stuff, so don't worry guys, there will be a lot of that kind of stuff coming. Garth says, local fishmonger delivering me fresh fish waste next week. That's really the best way to do it, is to have a guy or a person to say, hey, I'll take the waste, you know, and that's perfectly adequate, so don't worry. Watched some videos recently where they were talking about using urine to kickstart compost. What's your thoughts on that? Well, perhaps you watched my video that I made on using urine to kickstart compost. So to stop from being redundant, you can watch that video. It's called Homemade Nitrogen Fertilizer and Compost Activator, and it's very, very beneficial. Yes, I highly agree, because the compost pile, when it goes cold or when it takes a long time to break down, if you have a compost pile that's just like sitting there and you're like, man, I thought I'd have nice fresh soil by now, but all that's happening is it's just a bunch of twigs and it's just not breaking down. You know, if it seems like it's taken forever, it's because there's not sufficient quantities of nitrogen for it to be fast. It will break down, even if it's just all browns, it will eventually break down. But if you want that fast, good, vibrant compost, you have to have the nitrogen, because that's what the bacteria need to consume so that they can do their process faster. So the more nitrogen in your compost pile, the faster it will decompose. So yes, if you add that it will greatly speed things up. How soon can we use fermented urine? I need it for my plants. Well, that's the thing. It depends how toxic your urine is. That's the thing that you need to determine. So for someone that's like, it's mostly, the fermenting of the urine is a big part to break down the chemicals that are in pretty much everyone's diet, especially if you're taking any kind of antibiotic. That is the number one thing that we want to steer clear of, both in our body. Only take it in dire emergency situations, but also in our soil, because it passes right through us and it goes into our urine. And then antibiotics or antimicrobial, anti-microorganisms, we don't want that in the soil, and because we're trying to proliferate the microorganisms. And so the leaf mold, though, when you ferment it that way for about 3 weeks at least, the leaf mold microorganisms can break that stuff down. It's magnificent. But according to the organic certifications, the OMRI Organic Certification Board, to use human urine, it must be fermented for 6 months first. So that's the official answer. The unofficial answer would be in a couple weeks. I mean, the super unofficial answer is you can use it straight. Yeah, I mean, you can use it as soon as it comes out of the body. Yes, you can. But it's not going to be as good. I have found when you ferment the urine, something happens to, and I could explain, but it's like chemistry, complicated, and kind of boring for some people. But the urine, the type of ammonia, the type of nitrogen that it is, converts to something else and makes it more plant available than it is right when it comes out of your body. So it gets a lot more concentrated when you ferment it. Okay, my little one is potty training. Been dumping her little potty into the compost. Should be good to go next year. Yeah, that's a good idea. Absolutely, you can do that. And do you bring all fertilizer barrels in for the winter? No, absolutely not. The only one that I had brought in last year for the winter and the year before was the fish fertilizer, because, and I had the airlock on it so that it wasn't smelling. The airlock keeps it from smelling. I mean, it's magnificent. So the other ones, though, you don't need to, because you're culturing the microorganisms that are accustomed to your location. So that is why we will utilize the indigenous microorganisms in the leaf mold, and we'll just leave them. But the thing that you have to look out for is that you cannot leave the barrel full, because the expanding ice will burst, because nothing can stop the ice. When it freezes, it expands. I mean, that's why the roads crack around here and stuff like that. So you have to you'll want to, and I'll show you guys how to prepare them for the winter time here in about another month, but you will take it all the way down till it's only about a third full, and you will put that on your fields, on your and in the leaf mold and in the compost pile for next year, to start to supercharge it, so that the barrel is only about a third full. And that's not going to crack anything. That's all the matter is still going to be in there. All the stuff's still going to be in there, and it's going to work just fine for you. Okay. Let's see. Apparently your morning urine is the best. It is definitely the most concentrated by far. Yes. The morning urine is the most concentrated. In fact, when people in India, when people practice the ancient art of Shivambu, they do not drink the morning one. Yeah, but you can drink your other urines, and they are apparently very, very healing to the body. Okay, how do you repair soil that had vine borers in summer squash? New to gardening in Alabama. Vine borers, yeah, they're very irritating. And so it's many different techniques is what you're going to need to use, but you want to, as far as repairing the soil, you're going to repair it with the JADAM microbial solution. You're going to plant a cover crop in the off season. This is very important. And then you're going to have to use things. You're going to have to use things like mint and garlic and onions and marigolds. And look at the video that I made, the seven pest deterrent plants. That is the best way to do it. You intercrop all that stuff right in the mix with everything. So vine borers can devastate, like typical row gardening. If you do, okay, I've got a big long 50-foot row or a couple 50-foot rows of squash or of certain thing, they can just decimate that whole thing. So garlic needs to be planted in there, marigolds need to be planted, onions, mint, to chop and drop the mint, use it as a mulch. That's a really, really good technique. It's, okay. Reading Mr. Chow's book, I'm a bit confused about use of vinegar. He says do not. Then how to make calcium the way you taught us? Right. See, this is not a JADAM channel. I mean, I take a la carte. What works over the years, what I have seen work, that is what I do. So the calcium acetate is KNF, actually, Korean Natural Farming, which his dad sort of came up with. But this is actually, I mean, they by no means have a patent on this kind of method, because people have been doing this for thousands of years. So yes, many of the things actually that I show you guys on this channel, I don't even have to use anymore. Okay, a lot of these things are for deficient soils and when you're just beginning and you're just starting. But you'll see as the seasons progress on the channel exactly what I'm talking about. Your soil will very quickly improve to the point where it's not deficient in calcium. It's not deficient in anything, because the microbial activity can unlock all the stuff that it needs. So yeah, in pure JADAM, you don't use vinegar, you don't use molasses, you don't use any of that stuff. But on the videos, I say if it's JADAM or not, I say in particular what it is. In India, we collect first morning urine of indigenous cows. We prepare it for pesticides plus fertilizer and also for human consumption too. Wow, that's impressive. What part of India are you from, or are you in? I think I asked you that before. I spent a lot of time in India. Yeah, rode the Royal Enfield 500, the Machismo, rode it all around on 2 separate trips, all through Rajasthan and the north and everything. Man, it was fantastic for months, just riding that Royal Enfield. Yeah. Really, you have no idea when you're in an experience like that how those memories will be just so deeply precious to you in your life. I mean, it's like that with a lot of things. You don't realize it until you're very much out of it. Then you're like, wow, man, that was just such a time to be alive. Okay, I just had to feed 10 cauliflower plants to the chickens. They just didn't make heads. Any suggestions why? Where are you at again? I think you're on the west coast, Pacific Northwest. It can, I don't know why it would be there, actually. Probably heat. That would be the number one thing. Heat would be the reason that they didn't make heads. Or too much nitrogen. You had too much nitrogen in the soil. Yeah, Oregon. Okay, you had either too much nitrogen in the soil, they got too dry, or they got stressed, or the heat, because they're a cool, so if it's still warm and hot, if it's still that dry, hot summer, like I used to experience in Northern California, they're not gonna head. And if you tried to grow them over the summer, they're not going to head. They need that cool temperature. So really, in Oregon, you could almost plant them like now, or like a couple of weeks ago. If you had transplants, now is when you would plant them, actually. Trish says, question, I saw your sunflower pics on Instagram. Mine are enormous and flopping over from the weight of their seeds. When is the best time to harvest them and save the seeds? The best time to harvest them, when the seed is the most mature, is when the little petals around the outside of the sunflower begin to turn brown. Okay, most of them will weep like that. Most of them will go like that, but not all of them. Some of mine just stayed up the whole time until they died. And so you will want to wait until the little leaves around the outside of the actual flower itself begin to turn brown. That's when you know. Because in nature, the sunflower would grow really tall, and then it would fall over like this, drop some of its seeds, and then collapse. And it would boom. And that way, the plant would spread the distance that the sunflower is tall. That's one reason that they get so tall, is so that they can boom, spread in their natural environment. So, but you want to get it before it does any of that, before it drops its seeds, and before the birds get to them. I'm from Gujarat, that's right, which is neighbor state of Rajasthan, Western India state, which also shares international border with Pakistan. Yes, that's right, I remember you saying that. And I went to the border of Pakistan there at Amritsar. I was at the Golden Temple, and then I went to I forget the name of it right now, but the place, you see the border closing ceremony between Pakistan. They're all waving flags and Pakistan, and the other guys are saying Hindustan, India. It's awesome. Yeah, so then, let me see. Hey, so I tried the pokeberry JHS. I didn't get it all the way up to a boil, but I let it cook down for a few hours. Think it'll work? Possibly. I'd have to see it. I'd have to see the consistency. Why wouldn't you let it boil though? I would, pokeberry is one of them things you can let boil for a long time. You know, it has to simmer for a long time. That's one thing that I use the pokeberry for. The things that you don't want to boil for a long time are the things where it's the volatile oils, like the mint or the oregano herbal solution. Those, you boil that stuff, and after you boil it so long, you don't smell it anymore because all the volatile oils have boiled off. So that's where I found the best result with using herbs like that. But other things like garlic and peppers, those you boil for a long time. And pokeberry and Jerusalem artichoke or ginkgo, you boil that stuff for a long time. Because whatever it is that's effective is... What other best flowers? I already use marigolds and nasturtiums, okay? I have found... Okay, you use marigolds and nasturtiums, calendula. Calendula is one of the best by far, as far as pest deterrent capabilities and the fact that it grows so easily. Calendula is an awesome flower, and you can use it for teas. You can use the petals to color certain tea mixes if you're into that kind of thing. But it's very medicinal, actually, the calendula. So that should be a part of everyone's repertoire, everyone's garden. And other things are the mint. Okay, so mint, nasturtiums, marigolds, calendula. I use the coxcomb. You know, it itself doesn't repel things, but it attracts like really beneficial stuff, and it's super beautiful. And of course, the other plants are garlic and onions. You want to be interplanting. Watch the video I made, 7 pest repellent plants. And you just plant them in the springtime. You just put one little clove of garlic here and there, and you don't worry about it growing up to be full garlic. You're interplanting it because pests, they want to see a big, wide space of the same crop. That's what they love. You know, and so if they fly around and they see the same crop over and over, then they say, okay, here's a good place to raise a family. So then they'll lay their eggs and all that. But if they fly around and they hit a marigold and then they hit a brassica, and they're like, oh, okay, but then they hit some garlic, it short circuits it. So they don't like to make their home there. So that's really how that all works. I couldn't get it hot enough with a single hot plate and big canning pot. Yeah, I understand that. So I think it'll still work. Maybe I should have done a smaller batch. I had over a gallon worth of the strained material when I finished. Well, that depends how much pokeberry you used. You only want to use just enough water to cover the material that you're using, plus about 30%. So cover the material and about 30%. That's pretty much across the board whenever you're making any kind of natural or the herbal type pesticides like that, okay? Hello, Nate. So glad to be here. Hello, Corey. Let me see here. I saw your, so now I did want to say, I thought I was gonna, I guess I answered them all. Okay. Now I did want to say, so I'm going to be making a video soon about sweet potatoes, because a lot of you, this is your first year growing sweet potatoes. So the short answer, because I've been getting questions from you guys, the short answer is you don't harvest them yet. Sweet potatoes are totally different than regular potatoes. I mean, totally different, in a whole different family, actually. The sweet potato is the morning glory family. The actual potato is the nightshade tomato family. Okay, so they're actually very different. But I made the video on when to harvest the potatoes. After the vines die down, you wait back a solid 2 weeks. And in fact, the best way is to just leave them in the ground until you need them, until it starts to get cold. But the potatoes, after the vines die, as long as it stays warm, they remain perfectly dormant. Okay, they only are going to come out of dormancy, the regular potatoes, once it gets cold. And then that's going to signify to them, okay, wintertime, and then it warms back up. Then they will start getting soft and sprouting. But if the vines die and you've got your grow bags or whatever it is, you just let them just sit there for weeks in the heat. It's going to be just fine. I mean, within reason, unless it's like blazing hot in the direct sun. But yeah, and then you just pull them up as you need them. But the sweet potato is totally different. The sweet potato will just continue growing. And so you have to terminate the sweet potato. And don't, just because it says 110 days, that doesn't mean anything. That's the minimum amount of time to get usable, storable sweet potatoes. But I'll make the video on it coming real soon. So be sure to watch that, okay? I'm eagerly awaiting the houseplant fertilizer video and also how you collect rainwater. Yeah, I never got around to making that video this year, and now it's like already, you know, time to like be taking it down. But I'm filming it all and stuff right now, so that real early spring or late winter I'll be able to have that video, so you guys can be prepared for that. Because rainwater is the ultimate, man. I mean, it is the best by far. Garth, congratulations, 22,000 subs, 2,000 in 1 week. Man, people are hungry for this knowledge. There's just no other way to explain it. I mean, I had another channel for like 3 years and I was doing all kinds of other stuff, and there was just like virtually zero engagement. It was just like it was like really disheartening. But then once I started this channel with the purpose, you know, then it was just like, boom, people are loving this kind of information. So yeah. Both wild and cultivated blackberries here taste bitter or soapy until JADAM brews are ready. Is there anything else to write this? Are they, well, obviously you're waiting till the blackberries are do you say black? Yeah, blackberry. Obviously you're waiting until they are fully ripe, right? Because that plays a huge factor. They have to have that ripeness. You can try to, of course, the fish fertilizer is very good. The ash fertilizer would be probably what I would give to them the best. But it could have to do with temperature and ripeness is my bet. Because, man, we used to have them on the ranch and they were just like unbelievable, like just an explosion of candy when you would just eat these when they were ripe. But if they weren't ripe, it was like, yeah, okay, take it or leave it. It's like the ones you get at the store. Okay, they're okay. But homegrown blackberries at the peak of ripeness are they're just divine. Good afternoon from Delphi. Oh yeah, India. Do you mean Delphi, Indiana? Okay, yes. Good morning, Double A, fellow Hoosier. I thought you were saying India. Do we make JLF with only potatoes? Or are there alternatives? Okay, Kaylin, you mean JMS, the microbial solution, right? And yes, we can use sweet potatoes for the microbial solution. We could use bananas for this microbial solution. We can use a number of different things if they're starchy. It depends what you have available. Potatoes are the best because they're very easy to digest for the microbes, and they store so long, and virtually all growing places can grow them. So yes, the regular potato is the best, but sweet potatoes work just fine. I've made it with that before. Also, if you guys want to culture some specific microbes to your specific plants, so let us say, for example, I have a big field of garlic, or not even a field, just like a 10 by 10 patch, which I planted 5 by 10, 212 cloves of garlic from a 5 by 10 space, which I'll show you guys how to do that when the time comes. But if I want to remediate, if I want to really supercharge that soil with the microbes that are specific for garlic, I will make the JADAM microbial solution just as normal, but I'll just put in a couple of cloves of garlic. I'll smash them up first, and I'll just put a couple of cloves of garlic in there. That's all it takes. It inoculates the brew with those particular microorganisms. You can do the same with spinach or with strawberries or whatever it is. If you want to make a microbial solution custom tailored to that exact thing, do it that way. It really works good. And I'll do that, and I'll apply it full strength in the fall time for where I know next year, okay, I'm going to be growing cabbages here in the early spring, okay? Ingrid says, how did your three sisters garden go? Yeah, so this year, the first 2 months of its life was just terrible. It was not a drop of rain and 90 degrees or more. So many of the things they didn't even sprout. I usually plant the Three Sisters garden the first week of June is when I like to have it planted. And then everything is dried by fall time because it's all the Three Sisters is all about dried. It's all about winter storage. But I planted them, you know, around the first of June. The stuff didn't even sprout until July, until mid-July when we got some rain finally. It was just crazy. And that garden I don't irrigate at all. So now that being said, at the moment there is corn 9 feet tall. I mean, there's glass gem corn 9 feet tall with beans growing up them, and the squash is taken off. So it's all gonna work. It's all gonna do really well. But last year it was really crazy good. I mean, all the corn came up, the beans were all over the place, and the squash, there was dozens of squash, hundreds of pounds of huge Tahitian melon squash and the Jardel squash. So next year, so this fall, I'm gonna show you how to prepare the Three Sisters garden so that you can like sort of follow along with the experience. And then I'll show you exactly when to plant them in the spring and what varieties. And we'll be doing more about the Three Sisters next year because it's really the best way for food security. Because that's why the natives grew it that way, because all three of those things are for storing over the winter and they're full of nutrition and calories. Okay. And Lady Sarcastro, thank you very much. 5 pounds sterling. I'm in London, UK. In the heat, I watered my pea plants, tap water, to cool them, but the leaves died. Is this normal? Yeah, so what kind of heat? I mean, when I think of the UK, I'm thinking of pretty much like coastal, sort of overcast, sort of very nice and temperate, sort of like Ireland, you know. But so what you are considering heat, I'm not sure if it's heat or not, but yes. Peas shut down in the heat, so it doesn't really matter, especially if they have a hot root zone. See, most plants can take hot air temperature, 28 to 36 C. Now, how am I supposed to know what 28 to 36 C? Are you talking about Celsius? So please convert that for me, and I will tell you whether or not, yes, that is, because I only speak Fahrenheit. So the heat is going to, peas cannot take the heat. That's why you plant. My mom knows I'm doing the live stream, yet she calls me almost every time I'm doing the live stream. And then she says, I missed your live stream. I don't know how I missed it. Well, here you go, Mom. Calling me again. But the peas, you want to plant them in the very, very early spring because they will shut down about June, about solstice, about mid-June because of the heat. And they'll shut down much faster if they're getting hot root zone. So you want to keep the roots cool with a heavy layer of mulch, especially if they're in pots. But then now is about time that you want to plant them. So you want to plant them, actually about 3 weeks ago is when you want to plant them. I mean, mine are already this tall and there's no fruits on them yet. 80 to 95, that's what that conversion is? Oh yeah, then it's definitely, okay, she meant 82 Fahrenheit, that's definitely the problem. Yeah, if it's in the 80s, they don't like that. They especially don't like when the nights are above 60, you know, so if they can handle, like right now in the fall time, even if it gets to 82, 85 degrees, but the night is like 55 or cooler, they love that, okay? But that's your issue. So what I would recommend, I don't know exactly your growing times, when your first frost date is. When is your first frost date, Lady Sarcastro? Because that would make a difference. So you could replant them now. So peas are the thing. As soon as they stop producing, take them out and replant. That's what you do with peas, okay? Better late than never, that's true. London and Europe had crazy hot weather. Yeah, man. We had record temperatures in the UK this year. Man, Nick. Okay, let us see. I wanted to plant that system for years. The Three Sisters garden? Yeah, okay. Well, we will definitely be going way more into that. It's the ultimate, it really is. So, Trish, do you stagger planting the Three Sisters or do you plant them all at the same time? I've done it both ways. I have found best results from, I plant the corn about a week before the 1st of June. And then about 10 days later, actually about 2 weeks after I plant the corn, then I'll come back and plant a bean seed, but it has to be the right varieties of all this. A bean seed at about the base of each stalk, 1 or 2 of them. And then once those sprout up, about a week later, then I will plant the squash, because the squash will grow the fastest of all. And so yes, I do stagger them. The planting takes about 3 full weeks, but you want to do it in that order, because if you plant them all at the same time, the beans and the squash will overtake the corn, and the corn won't have a chance to grow and to get sturdy. We usually plant corn around July 4th. Absolutely, if it is sweet corn, but you're in Oregon, so things are different, but a little bit different. But if it's sweet corn, definitely, yeah, and that's a really good. But I'm talking the old school 120-day flint corn, the dry corn, you know, that we will dry, well, allow it to dry, and then we will grind it into a delicious cornmeal that I will show you guys how to make, because I make grits with it all winter. I make Johnny cakes with it all winter. It is so delicious and nutritious, and we make it ourselves. Although I don't actually have the stone grounder, I don't actually have a mill anymore, but I do have a Vitamixer, and that's how I grind it. Even though it sounds like I'm just grinding up pebbles, rocks, it works so good. So you get this nice, rich, fluffy, succulent. It's just so good, this cornmeal, okay? I have noticed that you use 55-gallon drums to make your fertilizer. Can one do a 5-gallon to do this? Absolutely, AA. Yes, you can. It depends on your specific setup, okay? Mine, I got 3 55-gallon drums, and that's actually overkill, of course. So I give it away to people. I also, you know, I have many different gardens going on. So this is where I brew them, but this is not just for my backyard garden. You know, I have a number of different garden operations happening, and so I use it for all of that. But you can do a 5-gallon bucket, no problem, because you can dilute the stuff 1 to 20, 1 to 50, even 1 to 100 or more, depending. I mean, if it's really brewed strong, you can dilute it 1 to 2 or 300, and it's still effective, because we're working with microorganisms, and the plants don't require big amounts of this stuff. And remember, all of the fertilizers so the only food for a plant is the sunlight. That is the only actual food that a plant eats. Everything else is like a multivitamin. The fertilizers are like multivitamins. So if you wanted to grow big and healthy and strong, your primary focus is food, the calories. And the only calories for a plant is the sun. All the fertilizers are like multivitamins. So you wouldn't just take handfuls of multivitamins, because you would become sick. So you would take just enough multivitamins, but you don't need a ton of it. It's a similar mentality with fertilizers, natural fertilizers. So AA, thank you very much for answering me. Of course, my friend. Lady Sacroso, best decision we made was to move out 22 years ago from Sussex. In my area, it rots in the ground. What rots in the ground? I forget. Oh, corn? Oh, yeah, because you get all that beautiful, beautiful rain. Bryce. I found a 55-gallon drum and want to make JADAM liquid fertilizer, but am in Midwest. Will it freeze over winter, hurt it? Should I wait until spring to start it? Now, that is the thing. No, it will not hurt it. The only concern is splitting your barrel. So you can start a small batch now. I mean, you can even start a batch, and then when it comes time, after our first frosts, about mid-October, then you will drain that barrel till it's only about 1/3 full. And then if you leave that, or even less full, then it will be fine, because the microbes will be totally fine. They are conditioned to freezing and to thawing in this environment. That's why we use this exact stuff. Or that's why we use our local leaf mold, is because it's conditioned to the freezing. So it's not going to be a problem. The only thing is you just want to make sure that your barrel doesn't split, and you can do that by just making sure it's 1/3 or 1/4 of the way full. Yes, I would make it now. Kaylin, what's your next video, sir? We are in a hurry to have more, and how do we send a small donation? Oh, thank you for asking. Well, the donation, you can use the link in the description of the videos to go to the PayPal account, and you can donate that way. Or you can use the super thanks. There's a little heart with the money sign that says thanks. That's a good way to do it. I'm gonna have to come up with other ways, because some people are like, we don't have these ways. You know, there's also like super chats, like right now and stuff. So yeah, I got to come up with more ways to do that. But yeah, the videos are going to be coming out. You know, it's like, because the channel, here's the thing, the channel was like really doing well and stuff. And so, you know, I'm like, oh, I don't want to put out a video that people are not going to like, you know, so not in the sense of I'm changing my approach or anything, but in the sense of, okay, you want to do topics that people are showing interest in. So it's like, I'm not sure if a video that I'm making right now about how to make your own homemade smoked paprika with your peppers, that's what one of my next videos is going to be. Because guys, right now, if you could smell it in here, it is divine. I roasted the peppers yesterday, and now I'm drying them, and I'm going to process them into this this pepper powder that I use in soups and stews all winter long. It's shelf stable, it lasts for a long time, and it is the secret ingredient. I mean, it's incredible, because the way you grow the peppers using these techniques of soil management, the peppers are so full of flavors because the minerals are there. Everything is there. So that's like a video that I'm gonna, publish, or that's a video I'm gonna do that I know is not gonna be like the same as the fertilizer videos, but that's just part of, learning all about growing your channel. I mean, just some videos are like that, but there's lots of people that love that kind of thing. So you just got to be careful not to limit myself, or limit yourself on your channel. You don't want to back yourself in the corner so you can only talk about just one thing, within reason. It's all about gardening and food preservation and feeding yourself. That's really what the whole channel is about, feeding yourself. Pepper is also my favorite plant. Yes, of course we want to know how to make smoked paprika. Thank you, Graham. Thank you for the support, my Irish friend. My peppers were attacked by spider mites. No fruits this year. Oh, Lady Sarcastro. Yes, in the springtime, I will release again the video that will show everybody how to wipe out the slugs, aphids, caterpillar worms, spider mites. Yes, yes. Austin, let me go back up. Hang on, I just saw that. Austin, $5. Thank you very much, my friend. Tip jar goes brrr. Yes. Yes, I appreciate you're always contributing, and you're always present, and you're always engaged, and I really appreciate that. It makes it's like it's like we're friends, which is really crazy, considering I've never met many of you in person. It doesn't really feel that way. It doesn't matter, I have a jar full of dark green potion I made last year. I think it was fermented plant juice made of nettle. How do I use it? If it's the FPJ, then it's past its prime. You should just go ahead and dilute that and fertilize the plants with it. But the FPJ is not going to store for a whole year, which I'll be showing you guys how to make FPJ in the springtime, because that's really when you want to do it, because FPJ, fermented plant juice, the purpose of it is to extract the hormone auxin, which is a growth regulator. And the auxin condenses itself at the growing tips of the plant, because that's where it wants it to grow the most. So in the early springtime, we pick those growing tips of certain plants, and then we ferment them in a certain way that extracts the auxin. And then we spray that on our plants, and they go crazy over it. So yeah, I will be showing you guys how to make that, definitely. But it doesn't keep all that long. None of these ferments, some people will say that, oh yes, it keeps for a long time. It doesn't really, in my opinion, because they're active, living biological processes. You want to make them fresh. Okay, let me see here. I love smoked paprika vinaigrette. Oh yeah. Garth, there's a $sign at the bottom right of that chat column. It's cheaper to submit than through PayPal. Oh, is that right? But through the link that I have, though, there's no, PayPal doesn't take anything somehow. I don't know how that happens, but okay. Let's see. As in all things in life, do what you like. The right people will watch. That's exactly my philosophy. Thank you very much. That's the only way to really do it. And that's the only sustainable way, you know, because like this channel is going to grow and evolve, and it's going to be really cool because in a couple of years, you know, or whenever this time comes where I get the homestead, the land again, then you guys are going to be like, man, I was there on the ground floor. I was there when he was in this house, like in the city, just had this garden in his back. And now he's got a couple cows and chickens, and he's got all this space, and he's got a school where people are coming and learning all these techniques. And he's got, you know, all of this. He's written books and stuff. There will come a time when that is a reality. I see it. I mean, I know that this is happening. And so I think that'll be really cool because you guys will be like, man, I was with him when he was doing Saturday morning live chats just here in his house, you know, in this like tiny little place. I don't know. I think that kind of stuff's cool, you know, when I see something like that happen. When I can see the progress or the evolution, you know, or the development. I like that kind of stuff. Hi, Dana here. Tomatoes I picked at the end of the season were bitter, and the whole season slicing cucumbers were flavorless. Any idea if related, and what specific thing might be lacking in the soil? Well, I would have to see how they are grown, you know, and so the slicing cucumbers were flavorless. That definitely has to do with the minerals that is in the earth. That could also has to do with the heat. If it was super hot, I mean, even though cucumbers can really take heat, so it pretty much has to do with the microbial activity in the soil. And that is what is going to determine. So flavor is a good indicator of mineral density. Now, or of mineral content. Now the tomatoes now, those, I don't know, I'd have to see, you know, because there's so many things. So if they're getting too much light, or if they're stressed for water, that's not going to be good. Or if they're not getting good pollination, you know, if you're getting blossom end rot, if you're seeing the end of it rot, then that's an indicator that the plants aren't able to take up enough calcium. So it's more, that's a more complex answer. But you can solve pretty much all of that by working this fall, by cultivating the correct atmosphere to allow the process to happen over the winter time, so that next spring your soil is going to be on point. All right, so it's going to be it's actually very easy to do. We just have to do it now this fall, and then next year all the stuff's going to be plant available. It's all going to be good, so you will not have to worry about that. All the minerals that you need, all the microbial activity, it will all be present. And that's when you get the fullest flavor, is when the microbial activity is bursting with life. Nick Jones, 5 pounds sterling. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. You are also in London, is that right? UK, well, England somewhere, I know that. Looking for scaling up info to improve pasture and hay fields, amounts per acre and implementation. Okay, are you talking about, so I think I remember seeing that comment actually, 40 acres of hay fields you're trying to do, is that right? Now, so you're wanting to know the specific amounts. For this, I recommend getting the JADAM book. I highly recommend getting the JADAM book, because the JADAM stuff is tailored to farming more. You know, what I do is tailored to growing your own food. So that's actually different. But the farming aspect, so get the JADAM book. He makes all of this stuff in 500 liter batches, which is 132 gallons, you know, so yes. And he gives measurements for how much per acre that you can use on stuff like this. But yes, you can dilute, so you'll be diluting things like the JMS and the fish fertilizer. You'll be diluting them a lot, which is okay, you know, but you can make a big tub of the JMS and you spray it on the fields. And that's really what you want to do. If you have like a 500 gallon container, or like a 300 gallon pump sprayer that you pull behind your tractor, or whatever it is, you can make a full batch of the JMS, and you can add fish fertilizer, the JADAM fish fertilizer, all of that. You spray it directly onto the fields. So I can't give you off the top of my head the exact measurements, but it's totally doable on 40 acres of hay fields, not a problem. You can absolutely help to remediate the soil and improve the growth of all of it by composting the hay itself. That's the best possible thing. Composting the hay itself in the style of the liquid fertilizer, and then you can apply it that way. So whatever size field that you're using, that is going to work. all right? Can you do a video on how to make JADAM wetting agent and how to use it? Love your natural and new perspective on gardening and so on. Thank you very much, my friend. K Visions. Yes, I am going to make the JADAM wetting agent video. Definitely. It's like some of you know, though, that right before I started this channel, because I only started it in the springtime, but right before I did that, I made 29 gallons of it myself, just for my own use, which only cost about 60 bucks, by the way. And so obviously I still got loads of it left, but I am gonna make a small batch for you guys. Coming up pretty soon, I'll show you exactly how to do it. The wetting agent is actually more complicated than the sulfur agent, you know, so it definitely is something that you want to watch the video on. Dietrich and Dana, 20 bucks. Thank you, my friend. That is very inspiring to me. You inspire me in other ways as well, my friend. So I appreciate everything that you're doing for this channel, for us, for me. This was nice. It's so cool how so many, there's people like coming out of the woodwork that is like, can assist with certain things, or that have certain opportunities, or that have certain, you know, it's just materializing, which is really cool, man. So I'm definitely into it. I mean, people emailing me with certain things, consulting stuff now, it's all coming in, which is great. I mean, I'm ready for it. So let's do it. Can things like cannabinoids be used as a biostimulant? Also, would a ferment capture things like CBG, CBD, THC? Would it capture things like that? Not really. Well, I mean, for what are you talking about? Because for it to be psychoactive to the mind, it has to be heated first. So, or dissolved in some kind of a fat. But no, you can absolutely do cannabis this way. You can just compost everything, the whole plant, the roots and everything. You compost it, and you utilize it the exact same way as all the other plants, literally. And I'll show you guys this fall how to use what is called the base fertilizer. So there is the liquid fertilizers, yes, and I've showed you how to make those and stuff, but there's the base fertilizers, which are actually far more important. And that is what you put in the soil or on the soil. And that we do in the fall time, because that's how nature does it. At the end of the season, boom, everything falls down, or most things fall down. They decompose over the winter to then become new life in the spring. And so we follow that same method. So here in the fall time, I'm gonna show you guys how we're going to prepare the soil so that it can do its thing over the winter time, and you're building soil, growing microorganisms and earthworms all winter long. Even in a cold environment, it's okay. So that in the springtime, it's ready to go, okay? And yes, to answer your question, you treat cannabis the same way as you do other plants, because when you have thriving soil, whatever you put in there is gonna thrive. That's how nature designed this stuff, is to thrive. Nature never designed something to be sickly and weak. So if it is sickly and weak, you have to see, okay, what is the issue? And it can be solved, it can be fixed. Can you take MC questions? Master cleanse questions? Not really on this channel, because a lot of you guys aren't into the master cleanse. I mean, are you? I mean, do you want to get cleansed? Do you want to cleanse your pineal gland, your spiritual, your whole body, you know, your lymph system? Do you want to cleanse everything? I assume that's what you meant by MC, but I would keep that to the other channel. I mean, maybe if it's a quick one, go ahead and ask it. But no, my Nate Muri channel is about the master cleanse, you know, cleansing your body and mind so that you can then have a clean slate. It's like if you drove a Ferrari, it didn't even matter if it's a Ferrari. If you never changed the oil, if you never changed the spark plug, the air filter, if you never clean that stuff, it's gonna run like shit, even if it's a Ferrari. Our body is the same way. We need to periodically cleanse our system in order to thrive. When you do good things, the universe reacts. Universal laws, my friend. Yes, I know you understand that, Graham. Yes, thank you. I just made JWA myself. I ended up using potassium hydroxide, right? That's what you use. But I wasn't sure if I could have used the sodium hydroxide from the JADAM sulfur I made earlier. No, it will not turn out the same. It will be too hard. So no, you use the potassium hydroxide. It's very important that you follow them exactly directly to the T. I'm so looking forward to all these coming videos. Fantastic, Surfer Dude, thank you very much for the inspiration. See, I love making videos when I know people are receptive to them. That's what I love. It inspires me to say, okay, you know, like when somebody is interested, like when someone's passionate and interested, then that like amplifies your passion and your interest, you know? So it's really, it's how we feed each other. Blue Moon, worst thing to do is till the soil. Even and initial tilling. No till gardening with Charles and Hugh. Tilling disrupts the soil and will ignite the dormant weed seeds. Yes, I agree, but even they are proponents of a one-time initial till. Go way back, and they are proponents of a one-time. But if you live in England or someplace where you have nice, fluffy soil, maybe that's not necessary, you know. But if you live here, where it's been industrial agricultural farmed for you know, many years and then just left fallow, then yes, there's a hard pan of impenetrable clay. Well, I've made videos on why a one-time initial till is very beneficial. That's my opinion and my experience. But then after that, no, there's no need to till after that. But to break up that hard pan is very important, because otherwise you'll be spending years wondering, why is it just not thriving? You know, and you'll be putting compost and stuff on top, and you'll just end up with a couple inches of compost on top of rock hard clay. But you can solve that. But that being said, it's not necessary. Even the one-time till is not necessary. But I've just found better results with it. I just planted blue jade corn a week ago. Whoa, where are you at? Fertile Pharmacy. What's your MC channel? It's just my name, Nate Murray. I put a link to it on my main page of this channel. So yeah, it's where I give things. I'm going to be picking that channel back up. Mostly just talking about, I guess, spirituality and stuff like that. Cleansing, you know, current sort of state of the world kind of things. Also, for JWA, can I use any oil? Or rather, what's the most effective oil? Thanks for answering. Yeah, for JWA, pretty much canola oil. I mean, you can use any oil, but canola oil is the cheapest, and it wets the best. Now, I've never tried any other oil, just because when I learned how to make this, it was canola. You just always use canola. So although I know that you can use coconut oil and stuff like that, it will get very expensive doing it that way though. So yes. Central Florida. Okay, yeah, so you could probably, does it frost there ever? No. So I live north of 45. I went no-till this year due to cold spring weather, and it was disastrous. Yeah, what do you mean disastrous? You know, that's no-till has to be done right. I mean, it's definitely the way to go, because nature never tills, of course, but it has to be done in the right way, okay, to have results, because so many people get burned out or get discouraged by the no-till method when their stuff is just not thriving. It's because, and I see it all the time, they've just got a couple of inches of organic matter on top of rock solid clay, and it just doesn't work that way. The roots can't penetrate that, you know. So, because remember, hundreds of years ago, before the conquest of America, it was just an endless expanse. From the Mississippi all the way to the East Coast was an endless expanse of old growth forest. And it always said a squirrel could go from the Mississippi to the East Coast without ever touching the ground. And all those living roots that were in the ground, and those thousands of years of topsoil, of the cycle of death, decay equaling life, thousands of years, that soil was incredible. And that built up a certain bank, like a bank account, that built up a certain amount of power in the soil, of life-giving power and nutrition in the soil. And so for 150 years now, or 200 years now, we've been making withdrawals from that in a very, very destructive way without ever actually putting anything back in. That's why our types of farming have worked up until now, but we are now in a state where the soil is going to stop giving, even with fertilizer, chemical fertilizers and stuff. It's still giving less and less. If you look at the map, and I'll try and do a video on this in the wintertime, I will. If you look at the map as far as petroleum-based nitrogen consumption in America over the past 50 years, you can see in the 50s and 60s, it was just little amounts, and then 70s, 80s, 90s, more and more, until now it's just dense, heavy use of synthetic fertilizers because they have to. Because the land is stopping yielding. Now, all of that is because there's no more living roots in the ground and we're not managing the soil properly. But see, I get off on that. I get super passionate. Let's see, Ingrid, okay. I'm planning on making a lasagna type garden beds this fall. Yep, works pretty good. Lasagna gardening works good. Have you ever tried an old screw juicer for plant juice insecticide? No, that's not a bad idea though, actually. I have a number of different kind of juicers. But yeah, actually, that's a really good idea. Could be, you know. Mrs. P, I had to till broad fork once due to hardpan. Absolutely, the broad fork is very beneficial, and I use that myself. The broad fork is different. You know, you can use it sort of like a tiller. The broad fork's more like a plow than a tiller. You know, a tiller is grinds it all up into small particles, whereas I guess I should correct myself and say actually a plow, a one-time initial plow is what is required. You know, because to just break up the hardpan so that you can get living roots underneath there. Because you want to do that and then plant something with a vigorous root system, like the winter wheat or the winter rye, along with some a legume of some kind, like the crimson clover. So when you plant it like that, then that's going to get them roots in there, and that's going to be your tillage system, is the roots. Worked for me, just checking for other options. Let's see, thanks, thought it was growing to make lasagna. This year I learned to do biochar and have added it to compost and then garden. I have fought for years to get my dirt back to soil. Oh, I'm glad that you see the distinction. To get my dirt back to soil for home garden. This year was one step forward, maybe two. Yes, I like that. Biochar works really well. And yes, dirt is a combination of sand, silt, and clay. And dirt is what you find under your fingernails. Soil is sand, silt, and clay with microorganisms. It's alive, it's living, and there's a major difference. So, yes, one good way, and I'm gonna be making a video on it here in about 2 weeks, is one good way to start a bed for next year is to stack up a big brush pile and burn it all down, and then plant a cover crop into it. And you'll see exactly what I mean. There's some techniques that I have to explain, but that is the best way to start a bed for next year, because the land will be super fertile after that. All right. And yes, remember to like the video, yes. And also remember, guys, that I started a Garden Like a Viking Instagram account. So let me know what kind of things I'm supposed to put on Instagram, okay? Like, I'm putting pictures of things that I'm doing, but also because I like to have a purpose. You know, social media for me has to have a purpose. And so you have to learn something, or you have to like convey some kind of knowledge or information or inspiration or whatever it is. So that's what I'm trying to do. So, you know, even if you don't like the photos that much, just like them anyways, okay? So I'd appreciate it. We can help each other out. Another thing I wanted to cover, guys, is the barrels. I've been getting a lot of questions about where do I get the barrels. And now I've been hesitant to put a link to the barrels because they're like $150. They're like $150 online, mostly because of the shipping and stuff. But here's the thing, guys. Go to Facebook Marketplace and try to find them in your area. Because I found a guy through Facebook Marketplace that works at the olive factory. And apparently these barrels, maybe they fall off the truck, or maybe, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Still, I get them for 20 bucks. So that's what matters. So he's like, hey, 20 bucks. So I bought a bunch of them. And I've got them all over the place, even if they're not being used, because they're super valuable, super valuable. I use them for my rainwater collection. I use them for fermentation, and I'm going to use one of them this year as like a makeshift root cellar. You'll see. So yeah, the main thing is with the tight fitting lid, but those olive barrels are the best. They are the best. And the tight fitting lid is how it doesn't smell. And that's how it doesn't evaporate. Okay, so it's very important to have the tight fitting lid. Now, another question is, Well, let me see. Okay, what do you mean compost doesn't penetrate clay if you don't till first? That's exactly what I mean. Yes, yes, that's exactly what I mean. And the roots can't penetrate the clay. So go to a video that I made when I first started the channel called Prepping the Land for the Three Sisters Garden. And you will see an example of that I take the broad fork, and even though I'd been doing no-till there for 3 years, I think, I'd been doing the Three Sisters already for 3 years, and I've been adding loads of organic matter. I mean, feet of hay and mulch and leaves and stuff like that over those 3 years. And yet now I put the broad fork down and took a big section of the earth, and it all composts down to like an inch or two of organic matter on top of rock solid, impenetrable clay. Still, after 3 years of very prudent, no-till, heavy mulch organic gardening. So if I would have known what I know now, because I've been doing this now, then I would have initially I would have put a bunch of leaf mold on top and tilled it all in real good and immediately planted a cover crop of winter wheat and crimson clover. And that would have got down in there and kept it all broken up. And then from there out, I would have done no-till. From that point out, you're golden, okay? That's gonna be way more effective than just going straight to no-till. It just is, my friends. So, Leslie Perry Goldstein, $10. Thank you for all your great tips and advice. Thank you for the support and the inspiration, the subsequent inspiration. It always feels good because I'm giving my time, you know, so dollars are a symbolic representation of your time. So I appreciate that, Leslie. Hello from Cleveland, North Carolina, Ray Dowdy. Hello, my friend. Take pictures, Austin says, take pictures for a future book. Use them as Instagram pictures before then. That's not a bad idea. That's okay. That's got the wheels turning. That's got the wheels, because I am in the process. I'm working with the guy now. I mean, I'm learning stuff. There's a lot for me to learn, but we're thinking about, okay, like a book, maybe like a course, just all these kind of things that are in the works. You know, it's all happening, but you can only do so much at a time, you know? So, yeah, because I have another book that I'm writing at the same time right now about the past 10 years of world travel. What about wood chips? What about wood chips? Wood chips are really great. Wood chips are really great to use. The main thing about, and I know this because I've done it, the main thing about the like back to Eden method is time. You do not think that you're going to put down a bunch of wood chips and start growing that year. Okay, it's not going to work. Okay, because you need to be either a couple of years or it needs to be done in the right way. You need to put a lot of the JMS on it. Yes, so let's see. Let me see. Yeah, so wood chips, and I would not, don't till, I mean, till them in if it's going to be next fall or next spring, you could lay down wood chips and till some of them in now, so long as you plant the cover crop, yes. And you have to use the nitrogen-rich liquid fertilizers, then you could do that, yes. Because the main thing with the wood chips, and I see it all the time, is that people don't wait the time. And so in order for carbon material to be broken down by microorganisms, the fuel for those microorganisms, mostly the bacteria and stuff, is nitrogen. So they need that in order to fuel their process. And so they temporarily lock up the nitrogen that is in the soil. So it actually will make your plants deficient in nitrogen, not because the nitrogen goes anywhere, but because it's temporarily locked up in the bodies of the microorganisms, you see? So that is why it takes time to do wood chip method. But then after that, having a nice heavy layer of wood chip, yes, is very good. But you don't want to use pure heartwood chips. You want to use wood chips, arborist wood chips that have the leaves in it, because that is going to be the right amount of nitrogen. So you want the leaves to be in it. So try to get fresh ones from the arborist. Say, hey guys, you can dump that load of brush that you just chipped up in my backyard. And boom, those are the good ones, okay? Not mulch from a landscaping company. That's not the same, all right? That's just the wood and the bark. and there's none of the green material, okay? Wood chips helps trees and plants from frost. Angela Melo. $5. Thank you, my friend. Keep it real. Yes, that is a very good philosophy, and I appreciate your contribution and your input, Angela. It's been multiple weeks now, and I see you. Wood chips helps trees and plants from frost. Yes, it can. It definitely can. Although the fruits, of course, will frost if the air is the frosted temperature, but the roots around any tree that you're planting, it will do better if you put wood chip mulch, because trees need the relationship of the mycorrhizal fungi and the root system in order to flourish. That's why you'll see a lot of people will plant trees just in the middle of a field or in the middle of a yard or in the middle of some place, and they just want it to look super clean or something, and so they just plant the tree and just have grass come all the way up to it. And they're like, well, it's been years and it hasn't really done anything. It just kind of sits there. It doesn't really die. It doesn't really grow. Maybe it grows a little bit. That's because it needs the relationship of the fungi, because the mycorrhizal fungi is what attaches itself to the roots and then sends out miles, literally hundreds of miles of microscopic hyphae is what it's called, strings of fungi. And it sends them way out into the soil, and it shuttles nutrients back to the root of the tree itself. Because in turn, the tree says, okay, you do this for me, and I will produce for you the exact type of sugars that you need to survive, the good stuff. So the tree says, I will use the power of the sun for you, and I will combine the elements to create the sugars that you need. That's what it says to the mycorrhizal fungi. And then the fungi says, okay, deal. In return, I will go out into the soil and get you the stuff that you need. It's a beautiful relationship, but without exudates, exactly. Exudates. Remember, the tree or the plant exudes the exudates into the soil. That's what it gives to the microorganisms. Good call, Graham. And yes, so any tree that you're planting is going to benefit from a layer of arborous wood chip mulch. And arborous just means mulch that has the leaves in it as well, okay? So yes, that is what you want to do, and that's going to greatly increase the health of any tree. Dennis, would you start an indoor houseplant nursery in order to start an online business if you already own most of the equipment? Are you asking if I personally would do that, or are you saying you have the equipment and do I think it's worth your time starting an indoor houseplant nursery? Because I say absolutely it is worth your time, because it's houseplants are fantastic. Everybody, okay, the second. Yeah, everybody needs to start more and more people are getting on board, okay? They're realizing that having growing things around the human mind, we are hardwired to feel a sense of peace and a sense of satisfaction when we see living things around us. This is in our biology and our hardwired, because having thriving things, it signifies, okay, there's all the things required for life in this environment. This is what subconscious cues to the mind. And so, I mean, it's much deeper than that. But having these things around you lifts the mood, because the will to live, the will to survive, and the desire, the life force is in these plants. So having them all around helps to elevate the mood and the atmosphere. And people are starting to figure this out. And so therefore the houseplant movement is really big, and it will only get bigger. So yes, you can do that. The thing is, you want to stick to, man, I could do a whole series just on that. The thing that you really want to make sure that you stick to are the plants that you can clone. That's important. So like this, you can clone, okay? You can clone so many of these other plants, but you don't want ones that you have to buy or anything like that. But see, I'll just show you real quick, okay? See this big mama plant behind me? These things are 30 feet long, going all the way to the window. And all of these pothos all came from the one big mama, okay? So you see how many, and I've given away dozens of them, and lots of people have babies from this one pothos, okay? So yes, it's very easy to clone. Aloe also clones itself, that's right, Linnea. And Swedish ivy is another very good one, very beautiful. And the Wandering Jew, the purple one, is also a very wonderful plant, easy to clone. Philodendron's another easy one. And yes, it's definitely worth it if you do it the right way. The main thing is to keep your overhead low. And the good thing is that, because remember, houseplants evolved to survive underneath a dense jungle canopy. That is why they are able to exist with very low levels of light and very sporadic levels of water or nutrients as well, because they evolved to, in the very dim light. If you've ever been in the jungle, what actually reaches the ground is not much light because the canopy is so dense. So houseplants evolved underneath that. So they evolved to be where if they're not getting much light or much water or much nutrients, they just won't grow. They won't die either. They just won't grow that much, but they'll survive. Whereas like all the vegetable plants and stuff, they've got to have a big trajectory. They got to have lights, lots of water, lots of nutrients, all that stuff, or they die. Houseplants are very forgiving, okay? And things like the pothos is resistant to aphids and all that other kind of stuff. So they're really fantastic. I say go for it. Keep your overhead low. Now, like I said, I could do a whole series on this because, I mean, obviously I'm into houseplants and it works, you know? So yeah, let me know if you guys want to see videos on houseplants, which I know you do, but like what topics for houseplants. Okay, let's see. Hi again, I have problem growing cucumbers, peas, and beans. Oh, sunflowers too. The latter always end up getting rust. The others get powdery mildew. It spreads and kills them. What should I do? Wow, well, that sounds like you have a lot of problems growing them, my friend. So that is going to be beyond a solution of just add this or spray it with that. Your conditions are not right. So that's the foundation. You have to see, I would have to see, okay, what are you trying to grow where? What's the light? What's the drainage like? What is the nutrient regimen like? You have to take all that into consideration and say, okay, that's why they're not thriving. Because remember, all these fertilizers and stuff, it's just extra. You know, this is just, but if you have poor conditions, nothing can compensate for poor conditions, okay? Yes, it's improving your soil. That's what it's all about, okay? And so you have to improve your conditions. If you're getting powdery mildew all the time, okay, yeah, you could spray it with the sulfur or the labs. That will cure it, but that's not going to cure the future. That's not going to solve the root of the issue, the root. Okay, so you are going to need to spread them out more. Okay, sunlight. I practice JADAM methods. Okay, good. You practice JADAM methods. So then you want to make sure they're getting adequate sunlight, and you want to make sure they're not being planted too close together. Cucumbers don't like to be crowded out because they will get the powdery mildew. But really, cucumbers, 60 days, man. They grow really big and fast, produce a whole boatload of stuff, but then they're done. Then they'll keep producing, but they get all kinds of diseases and stuff. They just do. So it's best to succession sow them. Plant some cucumbers, 3 weeks or a month later, plant another run. And then you can take these out. You can even plant 2 full runs if your season is long enough. Plant one run and then cut them down, plant another one. Or plant peas after that, okay? Let me see. Don't forget the legal side of cloning. You can't just clone anything. Yeah, I suppose you can. Or I suppose that's true. Although paying attention to the legal aspect of things has never been my strong point. I can sit to put lightly. My cat would have a field day. Oh God, yeah, it does. Blue Moon, for real experience and time-treasured gardening knowledge. Look up Charles Dowding and Hugh Richards. They are very good channels. I absolutely agree. Charles Dowding is like, his channel is like a works of art. So is Hugh's now. You know, their visuals and the garden, and they live in England, and it's nice and temperate, and they've got this certain type of soil and all of that. It's really nice to watch their videos because it's like that classic English, like you're sitting down having a cup of tea with Grandpa. You know, that's what Charles Dowding's is like. So yeah, I remember. Check them out, guys. Can I harvest fungi from forest, or do I have to wait till plants in soil? Can I harvest fungi from forest, or do I have to wait till plants in soil? You can harvest the fungi. You're talking about the leaf mold. You can harvest that and then just keep it in a bucket with a breathable mesh lid. and you can keep it like that over the winter, okay? So you can get it now and then use it for your ferments, but also in the spring, it'll stay good till the springtime. So long as you keep it moist, you know, once every couple weeks or a month, you can spray it just a little bit. And there you will have stuff come early springtime, because in the early spring, the soil's still kind of too cold. So it's hard to get that stuff then. But you can do, it's best to do 2 batches a year, one in the fall now and one in the spring, or one in late summer, because everything's growing. As you saw from my video, I mean, you just go out there under the tree and it's everywhere, just exploding. And just today I showed you a picture on the Instagram account, Garden Like a Viking Instagram, where I sauteed some poblano peppers, onions, some potatoes right out of the garden, and then sauteed some chanterelle mushrooms that I found with a friend in the forest with some summer savory and butter. Oh my goodness, it was just divine. Okay, Jeremy Jones, previous comment also. Let's see, sunflowers are the easiest to grow. Yeah, sunflowers are very easy to grow. Okay, Jeremy Jones, hey, so I'm a new grower and I got my seedling going, and I've had a 50-gallon tub of potting soil I've been amending and getting ready. I've been trying to harvest stuff from nature to amp up the soil. Can I harvest fungi from forests, or do I have to wait till plants in the soil? Okay, so you're a new grower, you got your seedlings going, and you've got a 50-gallon tub of potting soil I've been amending and getting ready. So what you will want to do is gather the leaf mold from the soil, like I showed you, and then culture it in the JADAM microbial solution. I've made videos on both of those things. Make that brew, and then add it to your soil, inoculate it. And if there's no plants in the soil, you can add the JADAM microbial solution 100% strength. That's what I recommend for you. Do that 2 or 3 or 4 times. And we're taking in making the brew, we're feeding it with the potatoes, so we're culturing the microorganisms. And by billions and billions of times, that everything gets better, or I mean, everything gets more active. So that's what you would want to add to the soil. Okay, so add that a couple of times. You could also just mix in some of the leaf mold stuff as well, if you had enough of it. But I recommend a number of soakings of the microbial solution before you plant. Patty Wickersham, $10. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate the tip. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, Nate. We retired and purchased 7 acres of old growth woods, cabin and yard, and anxious to heal the soil, utilizing the leaf mold and fish abundance here. Man, that sounds lovely, Patty. That sounds really lovely. Where is that located? Do you mean real old growth, like in the redwoods, or where? Because yeah, that's really fantastic. You will have so many good opportunities ahead of you. Dietrich, if initial till is needed, what's your thought on using untreated wood sawdust with the leaf mold? Untreated wood sawdust, you can use that. Yeah, you can use that. It's best to sawdust. Everybody wants to use sawdust because there's a lot of it, of course, and you have it, which is great to use, but it can really zap. It can tie up a lot of the nitrogen. So it's best if you inoculate this, put the sawdust in a big pile and spray it with the microbial solution and some of the urea fertilizer or some of the fish fertilizer. Do that a number of times and then put a tarp back over it, and that's going to colonize. It's essentially going to inoculate the sawdust with the microbes and the fungi that we need. And so then you can add that, put that on top of the soil and till that in for the initial till. But remember, I don't promote tilling beyond just the one time. So yes, you want to inoculate that sawdust first though, okay? You'll get way better results. It'll break down way faster. And you can use it to sort of carry in the microorganisms. I've done sawdust before where if you spray it, if you go out and get the leaf mold like I showed the video and make the microbial solution, spray the sawdust and keep it covered in the shade, then you'll lift that after like a week and you'll see the mycelium all over, covered all the sawdust. That's the best. Then you put that into the soil. Yeah, you can also just do that and put it on top of the soil and then put more stuff on top of that. So it doesn't, It's not going to matter. Okay, JLF can be very strong. I found out last week 1 to 10 ratio was too much. Yeah, 1 to 10 can be too much. Yeah, you always have to make sure, especially if you're going to spray the leaves with it. Yeah, 1 to 30, no stronger than 1 to 30 if you're going to spray the leaves with it. 1 to 10 on the roots, depending on how strong you made the brew, you know. But like I said, it's not that necessary. You know, I know the strength of my brew, and I know how much I dilute it and all that stuff. So you have to just get knowing those things. Let's see. For someone used to listen, you're doing great explaining things. Thank you for your time. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the vote of confidence and the feedback. Okay, that's wonderful. I always appreciate feedback. You know, that's the one thing about the internet that is challenging at first. Because when I'm in a group of people and I'm speaking, I'm getting immediate feedback loop. I can see the reactions on their face. I can see the head nodding. I can see, you know, I can just feel the energy of people and stuff. So that's like an immediate feedback loop. Okay, should I keep talking about this? Should I stop talking about that? Should I go deeper in that? But with this, there's none of that. I'm just looking at a screen, you know, so there's no like feedback. I mean, I have what you guys are saying during these live chats, but other than that, it's like comments is about the only feedback. You know, it's like, okay, so people are into this. I should talk more about that. You know, that kind of thing. So for any of you trying to start up a YouTube channel or trying to do social media things, understand that aspect is the most challenging for me because I speak very well in public. I speak, you know, when I have to. RK, in starting a new garden, is it okay to flip the grass sod over and let it sit until next year instead of tilling it in? Absolutely, it is. And I do that actually with the broad fork. So I'll take, boom, and flip it over like that and let that sit. You can do that. And I'll make, well, different techniques, but yes. You can just flip the sod over and that will kill the grass. Contrary to most people's belief, you can just flip that over, that will wipe out the grass so that you can have next year then some really nice stuff. So you can flip the sod over and then cover it with leaf mold or leaves, and that is going to be really good for next year. Or flip it over and plant a cover crop. That's going to work really well as well. You want the living roots in the ground, okay? But once you start planting cover crops and stuff, you don't till after that, okay? So remember this. We're only doing the one-time till. I want to be very clear on that. Once cover crops, you stop after all of that, okay? Because they're doing the tilling, and these delicate relationships in the soil between the fungi and the roots and the microorganisms, you don't want to wreck all that up. So your videos are great. I'm all about doing things naturally, so it's a pleasure listening and learning more. Fantastic, my friend. I'm glad you're here. And I just want to say a few more things. The leaf mold. So, and I didn't say this at the beginning of the video, but the leaf mold video that I just made, that is leaf mold in relation to making the natural fertilizers and the microbial solution, okay? But there's another kind of leaf mold that we're going to use for mulch and basically like soil, and that is just leaves, okay? So that's actually classic leaf mold. What I just made the video about was the specific good stuff that you want to source for your microbial brews and your fertilizers. But we're going to be making another video about how to use leaves, which is leaf mold, to your advantage. I use tons of it, okay? I tilled this one time 3 years ago and haven't tilled anything since, of course, and thriving, unbelievable soil. And now the soil is so, because of all these practices, the soil is as soft as if I tilled it a foot deep. And when I tilled it, I was only getting that deep anyways. And so, no, it is soft a foot. You can dig down in this soil a foot with your hands. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And that's what comes. It's not me doing anything, it's nature doing it. It's just me making sure that all of the conditions are there when it needs to be. So, let's see. Hello, what do you apply for caterpillars that attack cabbage? Man, those are devastating. Yes, I know. Okay. I'm just gonna say it. Well, I got in trouble for giving the recipe out, you know, with you guys. So I don't want to give it out anymore. But yeah, you know, try like raw garlic and some soap. Okay. Yeah, I'll just have to make another video on cabbage worms. What cover crop, if any, would you recommend for a 7-gallon pot indoors for cannabis? I haven't been using any so far. What cover crop, if any, would you recommend for a 7-gallon pot indoors for cannabis? Okay, Dutch white clover. That's probably what I would do. Yeah, because it's going to be the lowest growing, and it's going to be giving any of the clovers is going to be establishing that good rhizobial bacteria in the soil. So, but after you plant the cover crop, you're going to want to you're not going to want to like do anything after that. You're just going to want to terminate it and then plant the plant in there. But with Dutch white clover, you can even have that be a living mulch. It depends if you're doing living soil, but for true living soil, you're going to want like 20-gallon pots, really. 7 gallons pretty small. I mean, at least 10. But yeah, you can do living soil where you just keep replacing it, and you never have to amend, you never have to do like replace the soil. But yeah, Dutch white clover. That's what I would recommend. Hello, Nate, tuning in late. Needed to deal with powdery mildew. Oh yeah? Yeah, it's about that time of year. The labs, spray the labs solution, or if you've made the sulfur, spray that. That'll take care of it completely. Okay, definitely. Or even the wetting agent. If you've made the JADAM wetting agent that I haven't made a video about yet, if you spray that, that's going to cure it. Okay, but remember, like I talked about earlier, spray that so that it cures it now. But then know that next year you have to readjust what you're doing, the conditions. You have to spread the plants out more. You have to give them more airflow, more sun. Something is not right, okay? Because they shouldn't be catching that, all right? Let's see here. Maybe we should just post a whole bunch of appropriate emojis, like watching your audience. Yeah, there you go. Just constant feedback through emojis. Yeah, cat eyes with cat heart. A cat with a heart through the eyes. What is that? What feedback is that? Jimmy Jones, I've been switching to organic. Think I'll go bigger pot soon and do living soil. Thanks. Yeah. The thing is, especially with indoor cultivation, guys, you got to choose. You got to be in one camp or the other. You can't do, it doesn't work like that. So you either go synthetic or organic, but you don't combine the two. Because especially in a small location like that, a 7-gallon pot, a 10-gallon pot or something, there's not the power of the microorganisms to overcome the synthetics. So the synthetics kill microorganisms. They're designed that way so that the plants and the soil become dependent on more synthetics. I mean, it's a very clever business model. So you want to stick with one or the other, all right? And I strongly recommend, of course, the organics, especially if it's for home consumption. If it's for your own consumption, oh my goodness. The best organic stuff, back when I was into that, the previous life, okay, that's what you want is the organic stuff. You grow yourself, you treat it with the love, you give it the love, and you're exuding the high vibrational energy. The plants absorb all of that, and then they give it back to you tenfold, okay? But if it's commercially, then it's all about yield, and that always adds a real unfun aspect to it. But anyways, okay, I thought I had houseplants. I thought I had houseplants till you did the wee walk around. Fantastic, safe, great chat. Yes, thank you very much. I'm a little bit obsessed about the houseplants because we go 5 months here, 6 months even, without anything growing. These winters and stuff, and just everything you look, it's just sticks. The trees are all twigs and stuff. And I spent years in Humboldt County, Northern California, where the redwoods grow, and there was just life. And the wintertime meant rain and life bursting from the seams, whereas here wintertime means like everything just looks dead. So I had to get over that by bringing the houseplants inside. Okay, Garth, thanks for stopping by, man. Yeah, I got to get going too. It's already been an hour and a half. I'm starting to get a hoarse throat. I can tell you had a previous life like that. Takes one to know one. Yeah, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. Okay, here's another crying cat emoji. Okay, good feedback. Thank you. And okay, I'm new to JADAM. Is the plant material from the neem tree acceptable for pesticide? Sorry if this is redundant. Absolutely. If you've got the neem tree, definitely. Yeah. I just don't recommend neem because most people, they can't grow it. And so it's like, well, okay. And it can be toxic. Back when I was high stakes gardening, I burned a number of plants with neem oil because I wanted to make sure it really worked. I mean, it works great and stuff. I don't need it anymore. So, because when you can grow marigolds and you can make garlic and all of that stuff yourself, it's not required. But yeah, if you got the neem plant, go ahead. Okay, a couple more questions. If you got any more burning questions, let me know. Can we use the moss growing on old trees in some way? Super sticker feature not available in my region. Oh, Mauritius. Is that Mauritius? Is that in Africa? What's the other alternative? FPJ is expected. Sure. Okay. Super sticker. Oh, yeah. Can we use the moss growing on old trees in some way? You mean for the garden? Well, sure. Put some of it into the liquid compost. But that's not going to be leaf mold though. So it's not going to replace the leaf mold, but you can compost it. Absolutely. You can put it in the barrels. It's an actual plant though. Okay. Using moss for trees for mulch. Yes, you can do that. You can do that. What would you make from a coconut shell? Let's see. From a coconut shell, there's all kinds of stuff you can make from that, my friends, depending on what you need, okay? Okay, a couple more. I lived in Humboldt and Mendocino, beautiful areas. Oh man, yeah. I used to live in an area called Shelter Cove. It was incredible. Thank you, Nate. It was awesome to hear all good stuff you have shared with us. Thank you, Pam. Thank you for always being here. And thank you all my friends. So we will bring this to a close. Just remember, oh yeah, bee pollen, man. You guys want to be taking the bee pollen. It gives you great energy. It's the essence of the plants. So, yeah, don't forget the Garden Like a Viking Instagram, and don't forget to hit the like button and watch the videos and do all that good stuff. Help the channel grow. I appreciate you guys helping me out grow the channel. So it's a great relationship. And remember that about if you have to get a hold of me for something personal or like an inquiry, you can gardenlikeaviking@gmail. But if it's just a question about something, keep it in the comments section of the videos so that we can all benefit from the conversation. Okay, my friends? I will see you next Saturday, same time.